Hello, my name is lesfleursdelanuit. I'm a photographer who specializes in macro photography and artistic editing. This is the fifth part of a multi-part series that will teach you how to create a dreamy minimalistic edit. In this tutorial, we will cover color toning. In particular, we will cover color toning with the camera raw filter, which we covered in detail in the previous video. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename this layer Merged Cleaned Up Background. Now we're going to convert this layer for Smart Filters. So we're going to go to Filter, Convert for Smart Filters. In the window that pops up, we're going to press OK. Now it's been converted for Smart Filters. Now what we want to do is we want to apply the camera raw filter. So we're going to go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. So this is the camera raw filter. As I explained in the previous video, this is basically Lightroom Classic built into Photoshop itself. So the first tools we're going to use in the camera raw filter are the color calibration sliders. These are extremely powerful sliders that are underused because they're found only in Lightroom Classic and in the camera raw filter found in Photoshop. So what we're going to do is we're going to first discuss the theory behind the color calibration tools, and then we're going to apply it to our image. So what I want to say is that the color calibration tools are extremely powerful. In fact, they might be one of the most powerful color toning tools you have at your disposal because they have such a strong effect on the colors in your image. So let's get started on some theory. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cover something that is fairly well known, but we're going to go over it anyway. So what we need to do is we need to zoom into this image. We're going to zoom in a lot at 1600%. Now when we zoom in at 1600%, we see that this image is composed of a bunch of tiny little squares. Each of these little squares is known as a pixel. All of these pixels are arranged neatly in a grid. Each pixel is associated with an RGB value, or red, green, blue value. The red, green, blue value defines what color is located at that pixel. So I'm going to step away from Photoshop for a second, and I want to do so in order to describe RGB values in more depth. So let's assume for a second that we are a painter and we have the following palette. Our palette only contains these three colors. That is this shade of red, this shade of green, and this shade of blue. Let's call these colors our primaries. So this is our primary red, our primary green, and our primary blue. Now suppose we want to produce other colors. How do we do this with our current palette? Well, the only way we can do this is by combining our primaries. So now we can discuss what exactly an RGB value is. Well, it is a triple of values that is used to create a final color. It can be thought of like a formula because each value in the triple represents a specific amount of each primary color needed to create a particular color. So that was a mouthful, but let's consider this triple right here. So this is a triple of values. This is the value for red, this is the value for green, and this is the value for blue. In this particular case, we have 73.3% red, 38.4% green, and 59.6% blue. When we combine these primaries at those rates, we produce this pink. So now what happens if we change the shades of our primaries, but we keep the formula the same? That is, we keep the triple the same. Well, we're going to produce a different final color. So what the color calibration tools allow you to do is they allow you to change the value of one of the primaries. That is, they allow you to adjust how you define primary red or primary green or primary blue. Since this is done on the pixel level, any changes you make to these sliders will affect the entire image. So another reason why the color calibration sliders are underused is because people do not understand how they differ from the HSL. That is, they do not understand how they differ from these sliders right here. Well, these sliders only target the area of your image that appear to be that color. So if I adjusted the luminance of the oranges here, I will only be adjusting the areas of the image that appear orange. So I'll only be affecting the areas of the image that appear orange. So now what happens if we consider the magentas? So if I change the magentas, it's only going to target these flowers. So it's going to target these flowers right here. So the important thing I want to note is that the color calibration tool affects the entire image. So when you change the value for the red, so this red right here, the green, or the blue primary, you're actually affecting all of the pixels in the image. So you're affecting the entire image. Okay, so that's enough for theory. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to adjust the blue primary. We're going to set the value of the blue primary to -100. We're going to drag it all the way to the left. So let's go ahead and do that. So now we're going to adjust our green primary. What we want to do is we want to set the value all the way to the left like we did with our blues. That is, we want to set the green primary to -100 as well. Now we're going to adjust our reds. We're not going to adjust the reds as much as we adjusted the greens or the blues, but what we're going to do is we're just going to make them a little bit more orange. So we're going to set the value to 57. So we like our oranges to be very intense. So what we're going to do is for our red primary, we're going to increase the saturation. Let's set the value of saturation to 36 for reds. So now that we have made these adjustments with the color calibration sliders, we are much closer to the final tones that we want. That is, we are much closer to the blue-orange pairing. However, I would like to adjust the actual shade of blue, so I'm going to use the HSL panel to adjust the particular shade of blue. We're using the HSL because we want to target only the blues. So the first thing we're going to do is adjust the hue. We're only going to adjust it a little. We're going to set the value to -3. Now we're going to adjust the saturation. We're going to set the value of the saturation to 46. And finally, we're going to adjust the luminance. We will set the value of the luminance to 36. Okay, so now with adjusting the HSL, we have brought ourselves even closer to the final tones we want. That is, we want fairy tale-like tones. However, I feel like our tones are a little flat, so we're going to adjust the RGB curve. So we're going to darken our darks. We're going to set the value of darks to -35, the value of lights to +16, and we're also going to adjust our shadows a little. We're going to set the value of our shadows to -8. That is, we're going to darken our shadows. So now what we have done is we've intensified the tones overall and also created more contrast. So now we're just going to make some basic adjustments. We're going to adjust the value for the whites just a tiny bit. We're going to set the value to -5. We're going to increase the value for vibrance. This might seem counterintuitive since the image is already vibrant, but let's go ahead and set the value for vibrance to +16. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to NVIDIA's channel.